Hello, beautiful friends. I'm Sherilyn, the Happy Stylist, and welcome to today's program. And guess what we're going to talk about today? And I'm probably going to do a whole series on this, and that is fashion meets fantasy football. Yes, it's that time of the year for fantasy football players to unite and draft their teams for this year's football season. Okay, so you're like, well, what does that have to do with us? I've watched your show and I don't really know anything about football, or maybe you do know a lot about football. I just wanted to share my story, and I hope nobody will be a hater because this is truly my story, and we're taught to respect people's stories. It doesn't mean you can relate to it, or maybe you can. It doesn't mean that maybe I'm right about stuff, or I'm sure things could be done better, but truly it's my heart and my story, so I'd like to share it with you. Number one is, I think this is terrible, I don't even know, but again, it's my story. I think this is my 4th year playing fantasy football with my husband, and he is he has 2 teams that what's the right word, don't even know the right word, like he's the boss man. I guess he's a league manager. There you go. I knew it would come to the brain after a while. Okay, so I started to do fantasy football with him on, I believe it was one of his leagues, because he needed an extra player. And I said, well, I'll give it a shot. Okay, now here's my story. I really don't know that much about football, so take that with a grain of salt. I decided that I would do this, and I know nothing about football, and I've really had a hard time. I mean, the struggle is real. I've had a hard time really understanding football and really wanting to learn. I mean, there's a gazillion players, and they come and go, and they get injured, and then they move around to teams, and I can't follow them. There's too many. But you talk to my husband, and he should have his own show. In fact, I'm gonna have him on this show. In my defense, I hope that the people that know a lot about football, whether you're a woman or a man, that's awesome. I just don't. So don't be hard on me, because the struggle is real. You gravitate toward the things that are of interest to you. So it's a natural affinity to remember things that you're excited about. For instance, fashion and looking younger, feeling better about myself, colors, makeup, that I have a natural affinity for. So I don't know every makeup out there in the world. There's a million, but I do know things like what colors look best on my skin tone, and how to put makeup on properly, how to blend, and how to make myself and feel better with the right type of makeup application and colors. I know what kind of shirts and silhouettes I look best in, and dresses and all that. So maybe someone who's not into fashion doesn't care about that. And if I said the word Sephora, I don't think my husband would know what that is. So so don't hate me because I don't know your world. Okay. So this is my, I think, 4th or 5th year. Maybe it's a 5th year, which is really terrible. 5th year to play fantasy football. So I have 2 teams now, because my husband is the league manager of 2. So my first team that I was a part of with his league years ago was She Loves the Game. And my husband always laughs, and he says, yeah, she doesn't love the game. She barely sits and watches it, which is true. And I probably should rename it. In fact, he did as a funny gesture once. I went to open up my ESPN league, and it said, she doesn't know the game, or something like that. And I'm like, I think my husband changed my league name, my team name. So I changed it back to She Loves the Game. But it's true. She's trying to learn to love the game. I'm doing a little better. And ironically, fantasy football is a little bit of the game of chance, or maybe a lot of the game of chance, because I don't care if you pick the best players in the world. There are things that happen in life that we cannot control, like injuries, or they lose their teammates that help them actually have the better flow. They can't do it by themselves. Football is a team playing game. So you could have the best players in the world, and my husband will be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This guy's down, that guy's down. How could I have so many injuries on my team? And then he's scrambling to pick up players from the pool, and maybe there's all kinds of factors. And it's my world versus his world, and I'm attempting to be a better wife by jumping into his world. And although it's slow, I feel like, my husband should appreciate that I'm even trying on a minuscule level. Do I have time to sit and watch the games? Because you probably say, well, Happy Stylist, you should sit and watch the games because, that's how you learn. Good idea, but I work full time. I have a family. We have a family. There's always cleaning and stuff to be done. So yes, it's my fault that I don't just push all that to the side and say, I'm going to sit here and watch the game, because there are some things that I want to do as well. And this is a part of my life that, yes, I could work on. So maybe this year I'll sit and watch more of the games. Now, I want to talk to the women out there who are like, oh yeah, I don't care about football. My husband, that's all he does. Oh my gosh, fantasy football is coming up, and I'm going to live, eat, and have to live next to and in this world of my husband being just overcome with everything fantasy football, and really I'm just tired of hearing about it. Hey, I'm going to relate to you. I'm going to encourage you wives or girlfriends or significant others to attempt to get into his world. Because if you don't have an interest in football generally, or you don't, it's because maybe you don't understand the game. Because I'm just going to tell you my side. Maybe it's not your side. I didn't understand the game. And then when I asked a few questions, I felt like the biggest dodo in the world. And granted, the timing probably wasn't the best because my husband was in the middle of the game. And I'm like, oh, I don't understand what just happened there. And then, you know, he and his friends are like, no, I can't believe that happened. Oh my gosh. And I'm trying to ask a question. Not really a good time. But that's how you learn. You see it happen and you're like, explain it to me. Oh, that is my encouragement to you women out there who say, yeah, not interested. Try, just try, because I really believe it's healthy for your marriage or your relationship to just try to be a part of the world. You don't have to be like all in, but just try. Say, I'm going to sit down through the game for like the last 15 minutes. And if there's something you don't know, maybe bring your pad and paper, write it down and say, hey, honey, I didn't really understand this. What is it? You know, and I don't know all the terminology, like I said, so the struggle is real. Okay. So we're going to talk about fantasy football because our draft is coming up on Sunday and I have 2 teams. So I wanted to kind of take this from a woman's angle and say, if you're just starting off and you decided to get on the fashion fantasy football bandwagon that I'm on, join me because we can go on a ride together. Even though I've done this for a lot of years, I'm not one up on you. And you know what? I'd be a perfect girl to be on ESPN, but I challenge that if there's any producers out there for sports programs to let me be on one of those shows or a regular. I can make a guest appearance and just say, hey, I'm reaching out to all the people that don't really know a lot about football, especially women, but maybe want to know about football. And I would be like just a perfect role model for those people and they wouldn't feel awkward. And I really believe that it would be a greater love of the game for everyone, and it could get more people interested, which, hey, in the long run, the sponsors will reach more people if we are all in, if you will there. So I'd be the perfect candidate to be on some of those shows as a sidekick. Yes, I don't know a lot, but they could kind of laugh at me as I take the journey to learn. It could even be a cool little maybe show theme that, hey, the Happy Stylist is coming on. It's fashion meets fantasy football and just about me learning. Yes, it might be awkward and we can laugh at myself when I say stupid things, but it's learning. So I want to talk about my teams because this is my strategy. Everyone's like, oh, you got your notes and are you ready to pick your team? I heard this one lady on the radio. She's great. She's so funny. And her husband's totally into football and fantasy football. So she plays too. And she's like, yeah, he comes. He's got his notes everywhere. They're all over the floor, all around him. He's in front of the computer and he's like serious time. And he's ready for that draft. You know, he's got his notes and everything. Okay. And she says, me, yeah, I'm like in front of my computer. And when my turn comes, I go, dink. Pick the person, you know, and I'm not quite sure what her plan of action is, but, and then she goes, yeah, and then I go in and I'm making a sandwich in the kitchen and then, oh, it's my turn again. And I dink picks the next one. She says, and every year she does better than him. So that's the whole thing about fantasy football. And I want to encourage you, if you want to try it, do it. You don't have to know a whole lot about it. Hey, ESPN does a lot of the legwork if you're in an ESPN league because in the drafts, they're going to bring up the top people that are still available for you to draft. So as long as they're not injured or something, you can just pick them. You could even auto draft and let the system pick for you, which I don't encourage that because you do need to pick your team. And if you don't do that well, that's all right. When my husband gets upset, I'm like, listen, hey bro, listen. There's no like trophy in heaven for winning the most fantasy football, whatever, head of the leagues or whatever. And he always does well anyway. He thinks he's not going to. And at the end of the season, he usually is like in the top. Like he either won the whole thing or he's second in place. So, and actually for not knowing much of anything, I haven't done terribly. I usually always make the playoffs. Hey, for someone who doesn't know what she's doing, and fashion, bringing fashion to the fantasy football world, I think it's really fun. Have we had some arguments over it, my husband and I? Yes. But has it brought us closer together? I think so. Because again, I'm attempting to do something that's a part of his world. And I think he really is appreciative of that, even though I think his patience is wearing out. I'll just say. But I haven't been the easiest student, okay? So let's talk about the teams. Okay, my plan of action is I did print something up with I even highlighted. I printed it up off of Fantasy Pros. First, like defense. again, you're sitting there in front of your computer and the draft is on. And really, I've learned that the mojo, the flow is that you're going to pick first probably your running backs, because the really good ones go really fast. So yes, usually I'll pick a running back, but sometimes, I know, don't be a hater. If a man's watching this, you're going to go, oh my gosh, or one of those. But yes, I will sneak in and get one or two good quarterbacks, because if you wait really long, I know that's probably protocol, and I'm learning the manners, but give me a break. I don't know what I'm doing really, so if I run in and get Aaron Rodgers, don't hate me, because I need all the help I can get, right? So you understand. Typically, I will pick a running back, and then it's a snake draft, so if you have your people, you're not going to come back around again for whatever 10 or 12 times, whatever it is. I try to put my top people in there, and they go whoop 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 whoop, and they're gone, right? And then I'm like, okay, who do I pick? So at least I'll have my list that I can scroll down and have an order of fantasy pros ranking them. So this is my plan of action, if you will. POA. I'm going to try to get either Chicago for my defensive team. I've got my Chicago, Jacksonville, Los Angeles, Baltimore, Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Houston as my top defensive teams. Okay, so if you're a woman and you don't really know what you're doing, you can go with my picks, but fantasy pro picks, no thumbs down, because I'm trying. So you should give me a thumbs up. Let's move on to kickers. All right, I got Greg Zuerlein, and don't be mad at me if I don't pronounce them right, okay? So there. Justin Tucker, Harrison Butker, Steven Groskowski, and Will Lutz. Okay, again, I'm probably not pronouncing the names right, but I am trying. I love Steven Hauschka. I had him last year, and he did wonderful for me. Thank you, Steven. All right. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, that's my guy. I think that I want him, but if I don't pick him first and don't do a running back first, I think he's going to get scooped up, because I really think that these guy players that I'm playing against are going to run and get him really fast. But I do really want Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback, and I would love to have him and Aaron Rodgers. That would be my dynamic duo there. There's a lot of quarterbacks: Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield. I'm getting him too. So you have to say you're going to get him, so that if someone else, picks the other players that you want, then yeah, maybe he'll still be there. Phillip Rivers. I do normally have to pick up 2 quarterbacks for each league. So we play a half-point PPR league. Like I said, I'm learning. All right, how about running backs? Of course, the big ones are Barkley, McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, David Johnson, Nick Chubb, Le'Veon Bell. We'll see, like I said, because they go so fast that I may not get any of those. All right, let's talk about Josh Jacobs. He's a rookie, but I think I'm going to get him because I talked to some guys at my office. That's my consultation with other guys that know the game, because I can't talk to my husband about all of it, because then he goes, you're going to get my player. We can't do that. So I have to kind of do a little bit of homework on the side. So I talked to my fellow fantasy football players at work, and they give me advice. I mean, you got to kind of know history, what's going on. If this person injured, if they play well with this person, if this quarterback has his team of support that he throws to all the time, and I don't even know all this stuff. But if you don't know that, or they share the playing field, he goes in part of the game, but then the coach puts somebody else in the game. Anyway, you get the gist. There's a lot to know. So tight ends. We didn't talk about tight ends. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Zach Ertz, O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, Delaney Walker, and don't be mad at us women if we pick somebody because we think he has a cool name. If they come up on my list and they're in the top, 20, I'll pick them up. They might have a really cool name, and that's okay, because it's got a cool name and they play well. It's a win-win. Just do whatever you want. Just try. Get on the fantasy football team and just try. That's what my word of encouragement is to you. And then you'll learn something. I've learned something through 4 years. Okay, let's talk about wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams. Okay, here's a good one. Julio Jones. Okay, Julio, I have to get you this year, at least on one of my teams. And I will tell you why. So the struggle's real, right? I've said it like 10 times already. So I'm trying to learn the game, and just a little bit of points for myself, in my mind anyway. Something to laugh about. I have a coworker that I don't see all the time, but he came over to my desk and I was talking to him, and I'm like, his name's Julio. Julio. I love that name. So I'm like, okay, yeah, Julio, what's your last name again? Oh, it's Julio Jones. And he just laughed at me. He's like, yeah, that's a football player. I said, I'm learning something. It's sticking. I remember the Julio Jones name. Julio Jones. So I came home and I told my husband, I said, hey, something's sticking. I'm learning the game because guess what? I called this guy at work. I said, oh, your last name is Jones, right? Julio Jones, because his first name's Julio. So anyway, so wide receivers only gave you a few, but that's some of the picks. And let's see what else. I guess that's it, right? I don't know. Amari Cooper. Ooh, here's a cool name. Cooper Kupp. Is that his name? Kupp? I don't know. Maybe I'll pick him up. Anyway, don't laugh at me. This was my show. I can make it what I want to make it. But I will, once I do my draft, which is tomorrow night, I have the 2 teams. I'll let you know who I got on my teams, and let's ride this fantasy football wave together. We can learn. And hey, if you're just tuning into my show, I just want to let you know that I hope that you'll join a fantasy football league. Get on ESPN, and I think there's always leagues where people are from all over that need people to fill the gaps, and they have empty slots. I'm bringing a little fashion to fantasy football, and we have to give a Fabumazing tip every single one of my shows. So today my Fabumazing tip is you don't have to wear a league shirt or dress this with a sports fanfare, if you will, the fashion, jersey, whatever, while you're watching the game. Just wear your team's favorite colors in a great shirt that you feel great in, and watch the game with them. And I say, if you're a guy, you might be sitting with your girlfriend, give her a break. You know, or a husband, give your wife a break. Just be kind to her. Just be nice as she's learning, and please have a lot of patience. And she's trying to learn the game. And all my friends that, gal friends that know the game and just understand it, hats off to you, because I admire you, because you just know it, you understand it. And I sit back and look at these type of ladies, I'm like, golly, that's amazing. The sportscasters that just, maybe they grew up with brothers or just had a natural love of the game, I am in the most awe of you, because I need to make you my mentors, because I'm learning the game. But respect is there. So you got your Fabumazing tip. Dress and feel good while you sit down and watch the game, and attempt to learn it if you don't know it, and wear your sparkles, and you'll feel great while you're watching the game. And for me, my advice is I'm gonna sit and try to watch more of the games with my husband this year. Remember, if you are watching my show and you're a typical Happy Stylist fan, you are gorgeous, and there's only one of you. And on my show, we learn, we laugh lots, we live younger, and we be the best. You be the best you that you can be. I'll be the best me that I can be, because there's only one of you. And celebrate you. And just, again, enlarge your borders. Fantasy football. Let's do it. I even got my football in the background on top of my fancy shoes. Let's do this. Have a great one. And we'll talk to you this next week after I draft my teams. Thanks, and have a happy day.